If we're framing our situation even before we have our child, that it's all about them, we are doing them a disservice. First of all, we're communicating something that's inaccurate. It's not all about them. The world is not all about them. And they will more than likely grow up with, now, this is if we're going in that same trajectory, right? They will more than likely grow up with the mentality of entitlement and a lot of confusion when everybody else isn't totally obsessed with them. Okay, this is how a narcissist can be born. There are other ways too, of course, but we're not talking about narcissism. We're talking about child identity. Okay, if they think that the world is all about them because mom has made it all about them, we're headed for trouble. Welcome to Ignite the Spark Within, a podcast designed to do just that, ignite your spark within you. I'm your host, Sarah Malone, owner of Spark Fitness and Lifestyle Coaching and voted Yahoo Finance's top 10 female coaches to follow in 2021. I believe everyone has a fire inside them, a powerful purpose, a story waiting to be told, and everyone can uncover and unleash this power. Every day you have the choice to either let your experiences shape you or take control and use your experiences to shape the world around you. You were made to experience happiness, freedom, joy, purpose, love, passion, and abundance. Disrupt the status quo, think for yourself, and join forces with those around you doing the same. Join me for thought-provoking conversations along with the strategies needed in order to help you ignite your spark within. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Your host here, Sarah Malone. I'm excited to talk about today's topic as it pertains to identity in motherhood. So a couple months back, there was a Q&A I had posted, and I got a submission asking the question, how does one maintain their identity in motherhood, or rather how not to lose your identity in motherhood? And while I know that I am not a mother myself, I feel as though this question has more to do with individual identity rather than advising a mother how to parent or mother her child, which I could probably give good advice there too, even though I don't have my own children, because healing is healing, loving is loving, and psychology is psychology. We are all the same. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to go into this question in depth. At face value, it may appear as though it's very simple, but it is very complex and it requires a lot of intention. And so I want to begin today's episode by first thanking the mothers, because without the feminine, without our mothers, humanity wouldn't exist. So thank you to our mothers, and thank you to our mothers no matter what, because I know, and I'm sure you agree, that when you begin to grow into adulthood and you learn about trauma and you learn about, family of origin, and you learn about ancestral baggage and bondage, and you begin that healing cycle, along the way, you do come to an understanding that our parents, our mothers, our fathers just did the very best that they could, given what they knew, what they had, or where they were at in life. So I think it's important to begin by acknowledging that no matter what you relate to or picture or think of when we talk about our mothers, just know that we know mothers, we see you, we love you, and we thank you no matter what it was like, because we know that you just did the very, very best that you could. So let's dive into the topic. I want to segment this into stages. before children, during children, and then after, because I think it's important to set the stage. And more importantly, I want to actually begin this journey at a stage before marriage. So when we think of this question, how do I not lose my identity? Which is a poorly phrased question, might I say? How do I not lose my identity during motherhood? Rather, we should be asking, how can I most efficiently maintain my own strong identity after motherhood or during motherhood? So semantics are very important. How we phrase things are very important. How we communicate things to ourselves are very, very important. So phrasing it in a way that says, how can I maintain my strong core identity throughout motherhood? Let's begin there. This process begins before you even think about getting married. So it's going to begin. Now, I might have just pause there and say, don't worry if we're past this stage. But if you're someone who's considering marriage or considering having kids and you're at this point, then tune in, allow your ears to listen in here. Or if you have kids of your own, you can begin to set the stage for them to prepare them to do this themselves. So before we even go into marriage, if your goal is to have kids and that is why you want to get married, then we are headed for trouble immediately. So immediately you're attaching your identity to being a mother, and your identity is having these kids. Now, what's going to happen in this scenario is because you're focused more on the desire to have kids and birth children, you are more than likely going to end up with a partner who is not your fit partner. Okay. You're looking at this through a lens of, I need to go through this process of marriage in order to fulfill my dream of being a mother and having kids. This is immediately a red flag that your identity is already being attached to, I am a mother. Okay. Women and men, you are more than just a mother. You are more than just a father. Okay. You have many different hats and roles and identities to play, not just this one. And so it's important that we really, really, really be intentional about choosing our partners. And we take our time. We take our time and we establish our marriage based off of two individual and very rooted and concrete identities. Okay. What happens often in our society is that we are told to go through a series of events in our life in order to be considered successful or acceptable, which is go to school, get married, buy a house, have kids, have a successful job. Okay. Those are the 5 things that we're pretty much told to do, or at the very least expected to do. Right. And so we do the things. We go through the processes and somehow we find ourselves in a midlife crisis later on down the road. So what I'm doing here is trying to prevent that from even going in that direction, even going in that trajectory. Okay. So it's important that we take the time before we even look for a partner or even open ourselves up to having a partner, a marriage that you're committing your life to, and to bringing more life into the world through that partnership. That we establish our identity there. The identity of self should be established by self before union. I'm going to say that again. The identity of self should be established by self before union. Only then are you setting yourself up for the prevention of even potentially losing your identity in motherhood or in marriage. Okay, so it begins there. It begins there. So thinking ahead, think about your overarching purpose and identity apart from a child before ever even thinking about having kids. Okay, it's like, who am I? Who am I without all of these things? Who am I without my job? Who am I without my relationship? Who am I without my children? Who am I? Because that identity was formed when you were born. And then it became a lifelong journey of developing and cultivating yourself into that identity. Okay. And even something you can do before having kids is to plan, picture, imagine, manifest what is going to happen when the child goes away. What's going to happen when your children or child leave the nest? Okay, so some things that you can prepare for is that mentally and emotionally. And making sure that you design your life where you have many other things that fill you up, not just the child. You've got passions, you've got activities, you have friends, you have, a husband, a relationship, a marriage, a love to cultivate. And so we fast forward now. Let's say you've done those things. Let's say you've cultivated your identity. You are a core person over here. You find a core person over here, which would be the outcome of design, not the normal one, but it is definitely the one that is intended for us. So that's what we're working towards. So core identity over here. And when one hand, core identity over here, and the other hand, we bring those into union. That's husband and wife. Okay. Now we decide that we have this identity in marriage. Now we have our identity of our married selves. Okay. Let's cultivate and grow that, because things can change. Things change when you bring 1 + 1 together. Okay. So we spend the time to nurture, to cultivate, to feed that relationship and that love. We get a little balance, we get a little equilibrium, and then we say, husband and wife say, you know what? I feel like it's our duty, now that we are two sound human beings, we're responsible, we have our core identity rooted, and we are firm in self. Now I feel it is our duty to bring a being of life into this world, because we want to grow humanity. So you decide to have a child. And so this is now during pregnancy. Here's what you can do. Stay rooted and purposeful in all the other life's actions and relationships with friends, with your husband, with your family, all throughout pregnancy. Okay, just because you get pregnant doesn't mean it's time to go into hibernation and hiding and be so focused on getting the house ready and getting everything ready and baby proof and baby ready. And now before child even comes into the world, we are all about baby. Okay, you're pre-framing yourself. You're hypnotizing yourself to say that my life is all about baby. So what you can do during these pregnant stages is make sure you maintain that balance. Make sure you maintain a well-rounded life even while you're pregnant. You can still go out with your friends. You could still go do your activities. You could still go on date nights, and you should. Okay, maintain as much of your identity as possible while you're preparing for baby to come in. Why? Because then you're a stronger mom for that baby when they do come. Okay, the dangers of attaching our identity to our kids is more harmful for them than it is for us. So if we attach our identity to that child, then they become the obligation to us. Now, we are subconsciously placing an obligation on them that they are filling our identity. Okay, talk about guilt. Talk about guilt if they don't do what mom wants, then she loses herself. What a huge responsibility for a child to have. And let me just tell you, children are smart. They don't need you to say these things out loud. They feel it. They feel it. And so if we're framing our situation even before we have our child, that it's all about them, we are doing them a disservice. First of all, we're communicating something that's inaccurate. It's not all about them. The world is not all about them. And they will more than likely grow up with, now, this is if we're going in that same trajectory, right? They will more than likely grow up with the mentality of entitlement and a lot of confusion when everybody else isn't totally obsessed with them. Okay, this is how a narcissist can be born. There are other ways too, of course, but we're not talking about narcissism. We're talking about child identity. Okay, if they think that the world is all about them because mom has made it all about them, we're headed for trouble. We are headed for trouble. So I'm jumping the gun a little bit. One thing I do need to talk about in regards to this identity and motherhood is, again, taking this pre-pregnancy. I can't stress this one enough, but it is so important that us as individuals, as parents, as adults, you don't even have to be a parent listening to this to gain one of the most valuable pieces of information you could gain in your entire life. And here's what it is. You are responsible for your own healing. You are responsible for your own healing. No one else, nothing else, only you. But what happens is we have parental trauma and family wounds. When we don't heal those and we bring children into the world, we make those children responsible for healing our wounds when we were a child. Ooh, hear that. When we do not heal our own family and parental wounds, and we bring a child into the world, we are making them responsible. Oh, this is so good. We are making them responsible for healing our childhood wounds. And you might be saying to yourself, that's a far stretch. How can you go that far, Sarah? Here's how. Your subconscious mind. Oh, this is so good. Your subconscious mind remembers everything. And then your conscious mind will put ego states and parts around you to protect you. And you don't even know that you're doing it. But let's say mom and dad always worked when you were a kid and you never felt like you got the love that you deserved. Hear this? Oh my gosh, this is so good. Mom and dad worked so much. They neglected you as a child and you never healed those wounds. Here's what's going to happen. One of two things. Either you're going to subconsciously create that same environment for your kids to make sure that you feel comfortable, because that is where your energetic and subconscious mind is stuck. It's stuck back there. So it wants to create what it knows. So it's going to do the same thing in that environment that you have kids in. Or, okay, that's option one. So that's when we say passing the baton. You're just passing the baton. You're carrying on that trend, right? Okay. You're going to create the environment that's going to make you feel like that's known, that's certain, that's comfortable, even though it's not really comfortable. Or you're going to go the polar opposite. And you're going to say, I refuse to ever put my kids through that. I refuse to ever allow my children to experience what I experienced. And so what do? You neglect your dreams. You don't go after opportunities. You don't put in the overtime to provide for the family. You don't do what you're passionate about because you're scared that either A, it will take too much time, or it will fail and you won't be able to provide for your kids. So you settle for a job that you're not really passionate about. And somehow you feel unfulfilled. No one really knows this. Well, they probably do, but you feel it. You feel blah. You feel like you're just coasting in life. And your kids don't get the parent that they deserve. Oh, this happens so much in so many other ways. Or, we have a history of divorce in the family, and then we refuse to do that. Nope, I am going to keep my family together at all costs. So you stay in a marriage that is not healthy. Your kids are witnessing that. And now they're developing beliefs of what love is based on what they see between a passionless marriage. Eek, I just went there. Oof. It feels good though, because it's truth. So you want to really do this identity and mothering and parenting thing right. Heal your family wounds first. Now, before I have people jumping up, wanting to strangle me or mute me. I know this is hard stuff. To hear, guys, but it's so true. And try to find yourself in this scenario. Maybe it's not as extreme as I just illustrated, but try to find yourself. Am I doing any of these things? Am I carrying my family wounds into my parenting and kind of like overcompensating, or maybe creating something that they don't even want? I read a post the other day. They said, I'm going to give my goal is to give my kids the life I never had. And I'm like, what if they don't want that life? Did you ever think about asking them what they want? Most kids don't even know what the heck they want. All they know is they need love. All children know is that they need love. And you know what's beautiful? They can figure out everything else from there. If they get a pure love, a good structure, and a safe environment, a safe space to become who they are, then they will figure out and create exactly what they want. We don't need to do that for them. But instead, we're making it about us. We're making it about the identity that we never developed. Okay, this is why it's so important. And this is what I mean by, at face value, this topic may seem pretty straightforward and simple, just develop your own identity and get a purpose. But it's way deeper than that. It's about carving and formulating that identity. It's about taking responsibility for our own healing so that we're not transferring that through and continuing cycles. Do you know, in my therapy sessions with clients, some of the most shaping traumas that they experienced were simple, small moments in time in their childhood. Like, mom left me in the car and she went inside and I thought she would never come back. And I was screaming and crying. And that shapes someone. Or, I got a bad grade and my mom said, it's okay. Mom got bad grades in school too. And, we're both stupid or something like that. Horrible example, but you get what I'm saying. So mom believed that she was stupid. So then she projects that onto child. This is the overarching point I'm making in all of these stories, is that it's not just about formulating your identity before. It's about making sure that that identity that you're rooting yourself in involves healing of your wounds that have even created that identity in the first place. Okay, maybe you have some severely dysfunctional beliefs, and those beliefs form your identity. You're certain about that identity. What good is that, though, if you don't heal that? I'm talking core identity. It's establishing your core self with a capital S. And that requires healing. Okay, because if we don't, we subconsciously make our wounds and our healing our child's responsibility. And now it's more about that child is fulfilling something for us more than we're fulfilling something for them. And really, a child-parent relationship is more about the parent fulfilling something for the child in order for the child to grow up into an adult that can then do the same. Now, if you've already had kids and you're realizing, holy crap, I have a lot of parental wounds that I need to heal, then don't worry, because you're never too old to heal. And just like you, your child's healing will also become their responsibility one day. So do what you can now. It's never too late to start. Take a deep dive into yourself. Go to the depths and all the darkest corners of yourself in order to become the best version of yourself so that you can love purely and separately. Loving separately is so important. Child should not be responsible for the mother feeling or healing or filling her abandonment wounds. Child should not be responsible for filling the void of nurturing and love in mother. Child should not be responsible for bringing companionship where they need to be their own companion and seeking companionship from their spouse. So healing is vital in this process. This way, you're not only sure of your identity, but you're bringing a whole identity to your mothering. So before you even have kids, understanding that being a mother is not your sole identity. It's not your sole life's purpose. We all have an overarching purpose, which is somewhat of the same. It's bring heaven to earth. It's quite simple. But our calling within that can vary. It can change. It can grow. It can look very different in different seasons. So just know that your purpose is the same as everyone else's. Bring heaven to earth. Spread the good word, meaning of God. And from there, you'll look at your mothering as a season of life, not your whole life. Okay. And then my next tip here is now during when you do have kids. Here are some things you can do. Set yourself up for success. Okay. Nothing good happens without intention and preparation. You can't just walk into being a good mother. This is going to require an intentionality and a little bit of extra work. But when you do it, will create a lot of freedom, avoid a lot of pain for you and child. And so here's what you want to do. Condition and create the environment that is not all about baby from the very beginning. Okay. You're going to go out. You're going to have people over. You're going to have a room, not a whole house, designated for baby. Okay. You're going to take time for yourself. You're going to communicate to the family and to yourself and to baby that there are times when mom's not around. There are times when baby is absent of mother. Now, this is a topic for another day, but it is very important that in these early stages, baby knows that when it's crying, when it's upset, it receives the love and the nurturing that it needs from mom. So important. So important. So in those infancy stages, when it's all about, that bonding experience, I do not recommend this. I do recommend being there as much as humanly possible for your crying baby, even when they're crying overnight. Guys, this whole, let them cry movement and tactic, I don't know where this came from, but it is god awful and it is severely damaging and is probably one of the most common traumas, because you know what that communicates to your child? That crying, which is a natural expression of a child when they need their mom, it's fear. It's fear. And they don't get that. And they have to learn to self-soothe at this young infancy stage. This is not self-soothing. This is numbness. You want to train your kid to sleep through the night? Nurture them when they need it. And in those infancy stages, make sure that they know that when they cry out to mom, she comes. Otherwise, we grow up with fears of abandonment, fears of not being loved, fears of not mattering, fears of not getting our needs met. And we become love deprived. So taking time for yourself when the time is right, making sure that there are times when mom's not there, mom's taking some mom time. Because mom matters too. Okay. Another thing you could do, ask for help. Ask for help. It is not all up to you. As a matter of fact, if you think that it is all up to you, this is again an identity issue. Because most likely you want everything to be up to you. You want to be needed. You want to be, feel like you're doing your motherly duties. And this is again back to self. If you're firm in your identity, like, I know I'm good mom. I know I take care of the needs. I know I'm doing the things. I need help. And in order to make this more efficient and more effective and less stress on me, and I'm the mom, so my state of being is very important, because if I'm stressed, baby's stressed, and then baby's stressed, the whole house is stressed. So I'm going to ask for help in the things that are things that I could get help in, aside from breastfeeding, obviously. Ask for help. Ask for babysitters, ask for dad to help, ask for grandparents to help, ask if you have older kids to help, ask for help. Otherwise, you're not only conditioning everyone else to be you're the go-to person for everything that they need, you're conditioning yourself that nobody can do it. I'm the only one who can do it. And sooner or later, you reach a level of overwhelm. And you've just lost your identity, because now your identity is everyone else's needs. Okay. You can have money conversations with the hubbers. Have money conversations about how we're going to do this. What's the plan? What's the plan here? What's the plan with baby? Who's working? How much can I work? How much can I stay home? All of these things matter, guys, because it shows your intentionality in creating the environment of eliminating as much stress as possible and making things more cohesive as much as possible. And then, as your child is growing up, it's very important. This piece is very, 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 very important. Train your child to have their own identity rather than thinking that their identity is you. They are not mom. You are not child. You are mom. They are child. And they are trying to figure out their identity. So instead of attaching yours to them, allow them and curiously guide them into creating themselves. Okay, if you're projecting, like that one thing I saw, if you're projecting, the life you never had on them, which may not be the life that they want, then you're attaching, again, your identity to them. And now they're attached to that, wondering why they're so dependent on mom. Well, I need mom to tell me who I am. I need mom to tell me what to do. I need mom to tell me how to be. Otherwise, I'm not okay. And then if child is not okay without mom doing all those things, you're like, why is my identity gone? Which, by the way, your identity never leaves. So is this making sense? These are also important. And importantly, they can be done and should be done continuously throughout the entirety of that child's presence in your home and after. Okay. We are constantly healing. It's a journey. It's not a destination. I've talked about this at length. Healing is constant. It's a commitment. It's a decision that you make, and it's a state of being. So just know that this stuff doesn't just stop. If you can go into motherhood with the mindset of, I'm a student, I'm constantly healing, and I need to frame my mind around the fact that things are going to be coming up all the time that are going to be calling to my attention, my need to heal and the different parts of myself that I need to be addressing in order to both maintain my own identity and be the best mother I could be. Okay. We're setting ourselves up for success long term. The problem that I see with most mothers is that when they say they lost themselves in motherhood is because they give up everything that they used to love in the chaos of having a child in the home. And while it is a new responsibility and a very big one at that, and yes, life may need to shift a little bit. And for a time, it will. But for a short time, what I see more frequently is that this short time of things shifting becomes a very long time. And before you know it, your kid's 13 years old. You haven't gone to the gym in 13 years. You haven't had a girls' night in 13 years. You haven't had a date night in 8 years. And we've got problems. Asking for help is going to allow you to do the things that light you up and that communicate to yourself that you still matter. You're still an important piece of this puzzle that requires self-love. So how do we avoid losing ourselves in motherhood? We don't. We just don't. We always keep ourselves. We make ourselves a priority. And we don't make this an option. You are not an option. You are mandatory. If you were a gym goer in the morning religiously 5 days a week, find a way to get your schedule back there as quickly as possible. If you used to go out every Saturday with your girlfriends, find a way to go out with your girlfriends every Saturday. Do the things you love. Your entire life doesn't need to change just because you had kids. And people that tell you that are lying, and they don't have high standards for themselves. And they're only saying that because they gave up everything that they loved when they had kids. And that is not okay, even if it's normal. Just because it's normal does not mean it's okay. And you, being the creator of your life, and also with a new responsibility of life in the world, are responsible for creating what you want and what's best for the child. And you know what? What's best for so-and-so over there may not be what's best for you and your family. So you decide that. Step up to the plate, woman of power. Make a decision. Keep your eyes fixed in your four walls of your home. Go inside and heal your inner child before you bring another child into this world, and during and after. And decide. Schedule it if you need to. And the last piece we want to talk about is what happens after the child leaves. And quite frankly, there's not much to talk about if we've properly done these steps that I just laid out previously. Because life just kind of keeps going on if you've done this in a healthy way, and you're sound and you're fit, and you've maintained yourself throughout this. It's just it just looks different. All right. So you're preparing yourself all along the way, emotionally and physically, for when you're an empty nester. Okay. A lot of people, they find themselves empty nesters, and they're like, I don't even know who this person next to me is anymore, because their whole marriage was about the kids. And now that the kids are gone, they got nothing. But that's not something to be happy about. But it just goes to show you that everything we were laying up ahead was in order to prepare you to get you to this place when that child leaves. I think the question was based around being a current mom and feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel like I lost myself when my child was born. But there's an equally detrimental and painful moment when our children or child leaves us to go off and build their own life, that we experience a level of trauma, and oh my gosh, we can spiral because our identity just left us. Hey, we just spent the last 18 to 25 years, quote unquote, losing our identity and giving it to this person who's much younger than us. And so when they leave, they take that with them. Now we're abandoned again. They took our identity. Who am I? I left myself. That's what happens. But if we've done all these things, like I said, it is never too late. If you have kids, you can start doing this right now. And you can even be very open with your children about it. That's the beautiful thing. If they're old enough to understand, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. Here's what I'm going to be focused on now. I realized this. I'm working on healing. What a great example that would be. So if we've done all of that, if we've set the stage and we've done the work and we've stayed committed, then what happens after they leave? We live our life. We live our life. I've had parents as clients that did this really well, and their kids left and they were like, yeah, I'm traveling more. I took up a second job. I'm volunteering. I love it. And I still go to see my kids like every weekend, and they have a great relationship. And I'm like, that's inspiring. That's inspiring. This question was based, I think, around those young moms who literally just allow everything to be uprooted and change everything about their life when their kid is born. And I, again, just come back to, honestly, the key fundamental thing you could do, the crucible, the keystone habit that you can do here to prevent this is doing that inner work yourself, doing that inner healing before the child comes. There are so many beliefs and things that we do, ways that we show up subconsciously that root back to our childhood experiences, most of which we don't even realize. But sometimes, it's so painful that we're just like anticipating and we can't wait to have a kid, because now we have the opportunity to do things different. And if that's our mind frame, again, it's all about us. If collectively, and this goes for mothers and fathers, this is not just a one-way street here, because there are single dads. There are dads in general that do this, that really want, especially a daughter. They really want a daughter. And it's their way to heal their mom wounds. But if we can collectively, this is the way to heal the world. If we could collectively heal our child wounds, our childhood wounds, our parental wounds, we're never at risk for losing our identity. We're loving from a pure place. We're loving from rather pure, because pure is rather hard to achieve. We are loving from an aware place. And isn't that beautiful? Okay. We're loving with both eyes open. We know, or at least we're able to catch and know why we're doing certain things, why we showed up a certain way. Why did we respond that way? Why do we want to have children? If your why is so that you could give that child what you never had, first red flag. If your desire is because I feel called to raise up children to carry on our humanity, and I'm going to do a damn good job of it. That's different. That's a sense of duty. Rather than righting the wrongs of someone else through you. So I love this topic. I love this topic. Anything having to do with healing and true love, because true love is the absence of, our own agendas or obligations and expectations. And so if you want to really, really keep your identity when you have children, it's to form it before, during, and after. It's to maintain proper perspective of where that child fits in your life and where you fit in theirs, what their role is and what your role is. And logistically, it's asking for help, making sure you take time for yourself, keeping the things you're passionate about, going after your dreams, and trying to keep as much of your previous life the same as possible. No, it's not possible to do everything the same, but you could do a lot of things similarly. And then you keep your sanity too. Great topic. I love this one. Thank you so much to the person who submitted this in the Q&A. I love these questions. I'm getting more emails on them too. So you guys just feel free to send in your emails with topics you'd like to go into. I have a couple more in the queue right now. But as always, guys, this is just important. This is a time where collectively we're being called to do some mass healing. A lot of it having to do with family of origin. And it's hard, but it's so rewarding. And honestly, it's hard, but it's expected of us. It's not like we get a pat on the back for doing healing work. This is what we're here to do. This is life. So keep that in perspective and keep your own healing journey in perspective. You can't compare it to anyone else's. You can't compare it to mine. You can't compare it to, your therapist or your friends. Can relate to each other, but you can't compare. Everyone's on their own journey. You're on yours and they're on theirs. And if anyone tries to tell you that they're healed, walk away. We don't arrive at healing. We go through it constantly and over and over and over again. And the healing mother is the strong mother. The healing mother will always maintain her identity. I love you. Be well. Until next time, we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ignite the Spark Within. If this podcast brought you value, or you think it would bring someone else value, please hit that share button. My mission is to reach and help as many people as I possibly can. And you just never know who could use that one good piece of information. And hey, if you have any topics, discussion questions, or ideas for future episodes, you can reach me directly at sarah@sparkflc.com and just write podcast in the subject line. And if you haven't already, please rate the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This helps bring awareness to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're alerted for all future episodes. Please go ahead and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself, you can visit sparkflc.com for more information.